3 weeks after the orc camp burned, Dia of Drangar still had not stopped looking at her ex. This was not unusual in itself. Dia liked weapons. She appreciated them the way the priests appreciate holy relics, the way nobles admired fine horses, the way Daylily Dazzleshimmer admired mushrooms shaped like butts. But Griefcleaver was different. The black steel great axe rested across Dia's shoulder as she walked. Its crimson veins dull beneath the midday sun. It did not glow constantly. It did not whisper aloud. It did not sing murder songs in the night, which Daylily had declared a good sign, probably. Yet it felt awake, patient, satisfied, like a wolf that had eaten well but knew there would be another hunt. Dia liked that. Daylily found it deeply concerning. The road beneath them wound through gentle country now, far from the smoking ruins of the orc camp, and farther still from the grateful caravan they had left behind. Hills rolled green and gold beneath the bright sky. The mountains ahead had grown larger with every passing day, their distant peaks glimmering white above the haze. Somewhere beyond that, Sindri the White One waited. At least, Dia hoped she did. If the dragon turned out to be dead, friendly, imaginary, or disappointingly small, Dia intended to be very annoyed. Daylily drifted beside her at shoulder height, which meant the fairy had to fly nearly 7 feet off the ground just to speak to Dia's face. Her emerald wings flickered in the sunlight, scattering the glimmers of green and gold across Dia's dark furs. The fairy was holding a wildflower. She had been holding it for almost an hour. Dia suspected it had done something interesting earlier, and Daylily was still emotionally attached to it. "Magical forests," Daylily announced, "are very difficult to spot." Dia glanced sideways. Daylily nodded gravely, as though delivering a lecture to a royal academy instead of a barbarian who spent the last 10 minutes deciding whether a cloud looked like a skull or a skull with antlers. "They're not like normal forests," Daylily continued. "Normal forests are, trees and birds and bugs and squirrel gossip." "Squirrel gossip?" Dia repeated flatly. "Oh, absolutely," Daylily said. "Squirrels are horrible about secrets. Never trust one with your personal information." "I'll remember that next time I confess my feelings to a squirrel." Daylily pointed the flower at her. "Mock me now, but when your tragic love life becomes acorn-based public knowledge, don't come crying to me." "My love life is not tragic. It scares tavern furniture." Dia smirked. "Only weak furniture." Daylily giggled, then immediately tried to spin in the air and smacked her wings against Dia's axe haft. "Ah!" the fairy yelped, wobbling sideways. Dia looked at her. "You attacked my axe." "It was in self-defense." "The axe was on my shoulder." "It looked threatening." "It is threatening." "Then I was right." Dia sighed and kept walking. Daylily recovered her balance and fluttered backwards, continuing her lecture with renewed enthusiasm. "As I was saying, before being menaced by your emotionally unstable murder stick," it's an axe, "magical forests hide themselves. Properly enchanted woods do not simply sit beside roads waving branches and shouting, 'Hello, I'm mystical, please come get cursed.'" Dia slowed. Her eyes shifted to the left side of the road. A forest had appeared there, not gradually, not in the ordinary way woods rose out of hills and valleys. It stood beyond a shallow ditch, as though the world had placed it there between one blink and the next. The trees were too tall, too dark, too lush. Their trunks twisted upward in spirals of silver bark veined with faint blue light. Leaves shimmered in colors no season had any right to produce. Emerald, violet, gold, and deep midnight green all shifting together like oil on water. Vines crawled lazily across branches without wind or guidance, curling and uncurling like sleeping serpents. Tiny lights drifted between the trunks. The air above the moss sparkled. A single flower near the edge of the wood opened as Dia watched, revealing petals shaped like little hands. Then it waved. Dia stopped walking. Daylily continued speaking, facing forward and gesturing dramatically with her flower. "You see, the untrained eye would walk right past a magical forest and never even realize it. That is what makes them so special. They're so subtle, hidden, mysterious, almost impossible. We are passing one now, Dia said. Daylily paused. She turned. Her eyes widened until Dia worried they might simply fall out of her face. The fairy dropped her flower. Oh. The waving flower at the forest's edge waved harder. Daylily gasped. Oh. Dia watched her carefully. You didn't notice? I was explaining. You were explaining how to notice. Yes, and I was doing beautifully until reality interrupted me. The fairy shot toward the edge of the road so quickly Dia had to grab the back of her dress to stop her from flying straight into a thorn bush. Daylily's wings buzzed furiously. Let me go. It's saying hello. The flower is waving. That's hello. It could be luring you. What? With adorable manners? Yes. Daylily twisted in Dia's grip, cheeks puffed with outrage. You are suspicious of everything. I am alive because of it. You're alive because you're built like a siege tower with anger issues. That too. Dia released her. Daylily immediately zipped into the ditch, hovering inches above it, hands clasped under her chin. The magical forest shimmered before her. A breeze moved through the trees. Though the grass on the road remained still, leaves whispered in layered voices. The drifting lights pulsed softly, like fireflies dreaming in daylight. Daylily's face brightened. We have to say hello. No, Dia said. Daylily turned slowly. Her expression became wounded in a theatrical, devastating way. Dia stared back without blinking. No, Dia repeated. But Dia, no. It's a magical forest. I noticed. It might be lonely. It has trees. That's not the same as friends. Dia adjusted Grief Cleaver on her shoulder. We are finding a dragon. The dragon will still be there. You don't know that. Daylily hovered closer, lowering her voice as if speaking to a stubborn animal. Dia, dragons do not simply wander off because a fairy said hello to a forest. You don't know that either. Daylily opened her mouth, closed it, then pointed accusingly at her. That was almost clever, and I hate it. Dia's expression remained flat. The fairy clasped her hands together. Please? No. Pleased with moss? No. Pleased with cute little mushroom houses? Dia glanced toward the forest. Near the base of one tree, 3 mushrooms had indeed grown into little house shapes, complete with tiny glowing windows. Daylily followed her gaze and squealed. The squeal was so high-pitched that one of the mushrooms shut its windows. Dia sighed, deeply, painfully, like a woman watching a good sense die in front of her. We'll look for 1 minute, Dia said. Daylily froze, then exploded in emotion. She spun in the air, laughed, clapped her hands, nearly flew into Dia's face, corrected herself, and darted toward the forest. 1 minute can mean so many things depending on emotional context, she called. No, it can't, Dia said, following. It can if you believe. I don't. I'll believe for both of us. That sounds exhausting. It is. They crossed the ditch. The moment Dia stepped beneath the first branch, the world changed. The road disappeared behind them as if swallowed by mist. Sound softened. The wind faded. The air inside the forest smelled of wet stone, wild mint, old leaves, and something sweet beneath it all. Too sweet, almost rotten. Dia noticed that last part. Daylily did not. The fairy hovered ahead, turning slow circles with her arms outstretched. Green light from her wings mingled with the forest drifting colors. She looked, for a moment, entirely at home. Oh, Daylily whispered. Hello, beautiful. Leaves shivered above her. A vine curled around a nearby branch and formed what might have been a spiral. Daylily gasped again. It answered! Dia studied the vine. It moved. That is answering. It could be stretching. Trees do not stretch sarcastically. You don't know. Daylily ignored her and flew deeper between the trunks. Hello, the fairy called brightly. I'm Daylily Dazzleshimmer of the Favia Glade. This is Dia of Drangar. She looks terrifying, but she only bites people who deserve it. Dia frowned. I bite rarely. Daylily looked back. You bit that cultist. He deserved it. That's what I said. They moved deeper. The forest grew stranger with every step. Branches bent away from Daylily as she passed, then slowly leaned back after her. Flowers glowed beneath thick roots. Mushrooms pulsed softly like breathing lanterns. Pools of water reflected skies that were not overhead. One showed stars, another storm clouds, another a golden sunrise, though the true sun remained high. Daylily flew from wonder to wonder. She smelled a silver blossom and sneezed glitter. She poked a glowing seed pod, and it hummed at her. She discovered a patch of moss that changed colors whenever she stepped on it, then spent far too long hopping from foot to foot, making a flash of green, blue, pink, and orange. Dia watched all of this with the patience of a boulder. The boulder was becoming suspicious. No birds sang. No insects buzzed. No small animals fled their approach. That was wrong. Forests were never quiet. Even dangerous forests had noise, especially dangerous forests. This one had beauty, magic, movement, but no life that answered. Daylily nosed eventually, though not immediately. She cupped her hands around her mouth and called, "Hello, little friends! Squirrels, rabbits, birds, suspicious raccoons? Anyone?" Only leaves whispered back. Her smile faltered slightly. "Maybe they're shy," she said. Dia's eyes moved across the trees. Maybe. Daylily flew toward a hollow log and crouched inside. "Hello! I'm not here to eat you. I am very small and mostly harmless." Dia snorted. Daylily shot her look. "Mostly." Nothing came from the log. The fairy stood slowly, concern dimming the brightness in her eyes. "That's strange." "Yes," Dia said. Daylily looked around. The forest shimmered beautifully, too beautifully, like a jewel set over a wound. "Magical forests usually talk," Daylily said quietly. "Not always with words, but they feel busy, happy. Even grumpy ones have personality." Dia stepped closer to the tree and pressed one hand against the bark. Cold. Too cold. The silver veins beneath the bark pulsed faintly. Not like sap, like sickness. "Daylily," Dia said. The fairy turned. Dia's voice had changed, gone flat, sharp. The tone she used before violence. "We should leave." Daylily's wings lowered. "But we just got here." "No." A vine shifted behind Daylily. Dia saw it. Her hand went to a hatchet on her belt. The vine rose silently from the ground, thick as a rope, its tip curling like a finger. Daylily, still facing Dia, gave a nervous little smile. "Maybe it's just sleeping. Magical forests can nap, you know. Not like normal naps, more like seasonal, spiritual." The vine snapped toward her. Daylily sneezed from lingering glitter in her nose. The sneeze flipped her backwards in the air. The vine whipped through the space where her head had been and struck a tree hard enough to crack bark. Daylily blinked upside down. "Oh, excuse me." Dia hurled the hatchet. The blade severed the vine cleanly. Dark sap sprayed across the moss. The forest screamed. Not loudly, not with one voice. Every tree groaned at once. Every leaf shimmered. Every vine pulled tight. Daylily went very still. "Oh," she whispered. The ground beneath Dia's boots split open. Roots burst upwards. Dia twisted aside as one slammed where she had stood. Another struck her shoulder and drove her sideways into a tree hard enough to shake loose glowing leaves. Daylily gasped. "Dia!" "I'm fine," Dia growled, shoving herself upward. A branch swung down like a club. Daylily turned at exactly the wrong moment to look for the voice in the forest. The branch missed her by less than an inch and smashed into the ground behind her. She yelped, startled by the noise rather than the attack. "Rude!" Dia grabbed another weapon, then hesitated. The trees. Daylily's trees. Her jaw clenched. Roots surged toward her again. Dia did not draw a great cleaver. Instead, she ducked, caught one root by both hands, and ripped it aside without cutting it. The forest answered with violence. Vines dropped from above. Branches twisted like spears. Thorns burst from trunks and grew long as daggers. The beautiful magical forest transformed into a heartbeat from wonder to ambush. Daylily fluttered wildly between attacks, somehow dodging every strike by accident. A vine lunged at her. She dipped to examine a glowing beetle that wasn't there. The vine missed. A branch swept sideways. Daylily sneezed again and shot upward. The branch missed. Roots snapped close behind her. She spun in delight at a cluster of floating lights. The root missed. "Dia!" Daylily called, confused and worried. "I think the forest is upset." Dia took a root across the ribs and crashed through a curtain of hanging vines. Her voice came back from the shadows, furious. "You noticed?" Daylily hovered in place, eyes wide. Then a thorn branch stabbed toward her back. She ducked to pick up the flower she had dropped earlier. The branch missed and impaled another tree. Daylily held up the flower sadly. "It followed us." Dia burst from the vines, hair wild, armor scratched, eyes blazing. "Stop admiring flowers and move." "I am moving." "Accidentally." "That still counts." Another root struck Dia across the chest and hurled her deeper into the forest. Daylily squeaked and flew after her as the trees closed behind them. The road was gone now. The sky was a distant shimmer through twisted branches, and somewhere ahead, beneath the beauty and the silence, something dark awaited in the heart of the magic forests. Something that had taken root. Something that was watching them. And it had made the mistake of hurting Dia of Drangar in front of Daylily Dazzleshimmer. The forest wanted them dead. That realization settled heavily into Daylily's mind as she darted between two snapping branches and accidentally avoided a third by stopping to stare at the particular pretty mushroom. The mushroom glowed blue. It looked vaguely surprised. Daylily pointed at it. "You are adorable." A tree immediately tried to crush her. The fairy yelped and shot sideways. The trunk slammed into the ground where she had been hovering. "Oh, come on!" Daylily shouted. "I complimented your mushroom!" The tree did not seem interested in discussing the matter. Nearby, Dia crashed through 3 saplings. The barbarian rolled across the forest floor, came up to one knee, and immediately caught a root the thickness of her arm before it could wrap around her neck. Muscles strained. The root strained back. For a brief moment, barbarian and tree engaged in what appeared to be an argument conducted entirely through violence. Then Dia won. She ripped the root out of the ground. The earth exploded upward. Dirt sprayed everywhere. The root writhed angrily in her hands. Dia stared at it. The root stared back. At least, it felt like it did. Then she threw it. The root disappeared behind 3 bushes and something exploded in the distance. Daylily winced. "What was that?" "No." Another branch struck Dia across the shoulders. The barbarian flew through a patch of glowing flowers. "Okay, that was one." The deeper they moved, the stranger the forest became. The beautiful colors remained. The shimmering light still drifted between branches. The flowers still bloomed. But now everything carried a subtle corruption. Black veins crawled beneath the silver bark. The glowing lights flickered sickly green. Flowers opened to reveal rows of tiny teeth. The sweetness in the air had become overwhelming, rotten, sour, wrong. Daylily finally recognized it. The fairy's stomach tightened. "Oh." A vine narrowly missed grabbing her ankle. She swatted it away with her staff. "Oh no." This wasn't a magical forest. Not anymore. This was a magical forest that had gotten sick. The realization hurt. More than Daylily expected. The fairy hovered between the twisting branches and looked around. She could feel it now. The suffering, the confusion, the pain. The forest wasn't attacking because it hated them. The forest was attacking because something had poisoned it. Something had made it afraid. Something had made it hurt. And hurt things often lash out. Even forests. Especially forests. Daylily's expression hardened. The look surprised even her. Somewhere nearby, Dia took a tree directly to the face. The barbarian stumbled backwards. "Found another one." Daylily pointed dramatically. "We are not fighting the forest anymore." Dia ducked beneath a swinging branch. "Good. We are helping it." A root wrapped around Dia's leg. The barbarian tore it free. "Excellent." Another root wrapped around her leg. The barbarian growled. "How?" Daylily opened her mouth, then closed it, then pointed deeper into the woods. "That way." Dia stared. "You don't know." "No." You pointed. Confidently. Dia sighed. "That's not the same thing." The forest answered for them. A scream echoed through the trees. Not an animal. Not a person. Something else. High pitch. Sharp. Wrong. Every branch around them shuddered. Every root pulled tight. The corruption seemed to pulse outward from somewhere ahead. Daylily felt it instantly. The fairy pointed again. This time, I actually know. Dia nodded. Then a tree hit her. Again. They ran, or rather, Dia ran. Daylily flew. The forest attempted murder continuously. Roots erupted from the ground. Branches swung from above. Thorns burst from bark like arrows. Daylily somehow avoided everything. Not skillfully, not intentionally, purely through luck. A branch swept toward her head. The fairy noticed a glowing butterfly. She changed directions. Miss. Roots erupted beneath her. She paused to tie her hair back. Miss. 3 vines lunged simultaneously. Daylily sneezed. All 3 missed. Dia watched this happen. Twice, then 3 times, then 7 times. Eventually, she stopped being impressed and became annoyed. Are you doing that on purpose? No. Then stop surviving so confidently. I don't know what that means. The trees abruptly ended. The fairy emerged into a massive clearing. Both stopped for very different reasons. Daylily stopped because of sadness. Dia stopped because of anger. At the center of the clearing stood the largest tree either had ever seen. Its trunk was wider than a castle tower. Its branches disappeared into the sky. Its roots stretched across the entire clearing like giant serpents. Even sick, it radiated ancient power. And it was sick. Black corruption crawled through its bark. Dark sap dripped from wounds in the trunk. Entire sections of the tree became twisted and rotten. The great forest around it seemed connected to every root, every branch, every flower, every living thing. The entire woodland revolved around this tree, and the tree was dying. Daylily landed softly. The fairy's eyes filled with tears. Oh. The single word broke. The ancient tree groaned. The sound echoed through the clearing. Not angry, not threatening. Pain. Pure pain. The sort of pain that came from suffering for a very long time. Daylily slowly approached. The tree responded. One enormous branch lowered toward her. Not to attack, to reach. The fairy pressed both hands against the bark. Green light spread from her fingers. The tree trembled. Daylily gasped. Dia! The barbarian looked over. Daylily's voice sounded small, heartbroken. Something hurt it. I gathered that. No. Tears slid from the fairy's cheeks. I mean, something hurt it. A laugh echoed through the clearing. High, sharp, cruel. Daylily spun. Dia immediately reached for Grief Cleaver. The laugh came again, this time from above. A tiny figure appeared atop one of the great roots. Perhaps 8 inches tall. 10, maybe. Small enough to fit inside Dia's hand. The creature looked vaguely fairy-like at first glance. The similarities ended quickly. Its wings resembled torn insect shells. Its skin was gray-green. Its eyes glowed sickly yellow. Tiny black thorns protruded from its arms and shoulders. The creature smiled. The smile contained far too many teeth. Daylily stared. Sprite. The creature bowed dramatically. Very good. Its voice sounded like leaves being shredded. Dia's expression darkened. The sprite looked at her, then at Grief Cleaver, then immediately decided Daylily was the safer target. Reasonably. You don't belong here, Daylily said. The sprite laughed. I belong more than you. The fairy's wings buzzed angrily. The sprite grinned wider. Look at you. It gestured toward the trees. Crying for it. Daylily clenched her fists. You're hurting it. Yes. The sprite sounded pleased. The clearing exploded. The sprite launched forward. Dark magic burst from its hands. Daylily reacted instantly. Green light collided with black. The impact sent both tiny creatures spinning through the air. Dia blinked. The entire battle was approximately the size of an argument between birds. The sprite darted around Daylily at impossible speed. Black thorns shot through the air. Daylily answered with vines, flowers, roots, bursts of emerald light. The 2 tiny figures streaked through the clearing like magical comets, one bright green, one black and sickly gold. Their dual carved circles through the air. Leaves spiraled. Flowers exploded into clouds of pollen. Thorns shattered, roots erupted. It looked spectacular and completely ridiculous. Dia watched for nearly a minute, then her head slowly turning left and right, trying to follow them. The sprite shrieked. Daylily shouted. The sprite cursed. Daylily called it a moldy turnip. The sprite became furious. Dia wasn't entirely sure who was winning. Then 3 corrupted trees tried to kill her again. The barbarian sighed deeply, then turned back toward the forest. Someone was about to have a very bad day. 3 corrupted trees attempted to murder Dia simultaneously. The barbarian was beginning to take it personally. A root erupted from beneath her feet. Dia jumped. A branch swung toward her head. She ducked. A second branch came from the opposite direction. She caught it with both hands. The impact rattled her teeth. The entire tree groaned. Dia groaned louder. Oh, for the love of... The branch pushed. Dia pushed back. Nearby, Daylily and the evil sprite continued their aerial battle. The pair shrieked around the clearing in flashes of green and black light. Roots exploded. Flowers erupted. Tiny insults echoed through the air. You're mean. I know. You're hurting the forest. I know. That's not something you're supposed to be proud of. The sprite laughed maniacally. Daylily looked genuinely offended. Dia's patience finally expired. The branch she held snapped with a sound like thunder. The corrupted tree recoiled. The barbarian immediately grabbed a second root, swung it like a giant rope, and used it to knock aside another attacking branch. Wood shattered. Leaves exploded. Dark sap sprayed everywhere. Dia stared at the mess, then at Griefcleaver, then back at the mess. She was trying not to hurt the forest. It was becoming increasingly difficult. Daylily, she called. The fairy zipped past overhead. What? I'm running out of restraint. Keep some. How much? All of it. Dia looked at the enormous tree trying to stab her. No. The sprite suddenly screamed, not in pain, in triumph. Dark energy erupted from its body. Black thorns shot through the air. The corruption in the Heartwood tree pulsed. Roots burst from the ground around Daylily. Dozens, hundreds. The fairy yelped. For the first time during the battle, luck failed her. One root wrapped around her ankle. Another snagged her arm. A third caught her waist. Daylily gasped, "Oh no!" The sprite grinned, "Oh yes." The roots dragged her downward, toward the corrupted earth, toward the dark sap pooling around the ancient tree. Daylily struggled. Green light burst from her hands. Several roots snapped. More replaced them. The sprite laughed. "You're too late." The fairy's eyes widened. "What did you do?" The sprite spread its arms dramatically. "I gave them purpose." It gestured toward the forest. "Look at it. The corrupted trees, the black roots, the spreading darkness. My kin need a place to breed." Daylily's face paled. The sprite smiled. "So I made one." The fairy looked at the Heartwood tree. Really looked. The ancient giant trembled. The corruption crawled through its roots. Its branches sagged. Its leaves were dying. The entire forest was being twisted into something unnatural, and it was suffering through every moment. Tears filled Daylily's eyes. "You cursed it." The sprite's grin widened. "Yes." "You hurt it." "Yes." "You hurt all of them." "Yes." The sprite sounded delighted. Daylily's voice broke. "Why?" For a brief moment, the clearing became quiet. Even the forest seemed to pause. The sprite tilted its head, as though the question genuinely confused it. "Because I could." The answer hit Daylily harder than any attack. Not revenge, not desperation, not survival. Cruelty. Simple cruelty. The fairy began to cry. The sprite rolled its eyes. "Oh, stop that." Daylily looked down. The tears continued. The sprite scoffed. "It's a tree." The clearing shook. Not from magic. Not from the forest. From Dia. The barbarian had gone very still. Very quiet. The sort of quiet that usually preceded regrettable decisions. She slowly turned. The sprite noticed. Its confidence faltered. Only slightly. After all, it was tiny, fast, powerful. Surely, Dia took one step. Then another. The roots attempting to hold her snapped apart. The corrupted branches withdrew. The sprite's grin weakened. Dia kept walking. The sprite raised a hand. Dark magic gathered. A curse, a spell, something unpleasant. Dia reached out and grabbed it. The entire battle stopped. The sprite dangled between Dia's thumb and forefinger. Its wings buzzed furiously. Its tiny arms flailed. Nothing happened. The creature was simply too small. Dia held it away from herself like someone inspecting a particularly annoying insect. The sprite stared. Dia stared back. Daylily stared. Even the forest seemed confused. The sprite recovered first. "You fool!" Dia blinked. The sprite pointed dramatically. "I will destroy you!" Dia frowned. "How?" The sprite opened its mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "I have powers!" Dia looked at its tiny arms. Then its tiny legs. Then back at Daylily. "Is this thing serious?" Daylily sniffled. "I think so." The barbarian looked genuinely baffled. The sprite became furious. "I command this forest." Dia nodded slowly. "Badly. I could summon monsters." "You are smaller than my hand." "I am ancient." Dia considered this. She looked at the creature again. It somehow became less intimidating. The sprite shrieked in outrage. "You should fear me!" Dia's expression remained completely blank. "I don't." The sprite looked horrified, not because she threatened it, not because she attacked it, because she genuinely wasn't impressed. Daylily floated closer. The fairy wiped her eyes. "Please?" Dia glanced at her. "Please what?" "Don't hurt it." The sprite immediately pointed. "Yes, listen to her." Dia looked back at the sprite, then at the suffering Heartwood tree, then at the corruption, then at Daylily's tears. The barbarian sighed. "What fixes this?" The sprite crossed its arms. "I won't tell you." Dia nodded. "Okay." Then she punched it. The punch was not hard, by Dia standards. Had she used actual effort, the sprite would have become a historical event. Instead, she flicked one knuckle into its stomach. The sprite folded instantly. Its eyes bulged, its wings froze. The tiny creature emitted a noise somewhere between a squeak and a dying accordion. Then it began to scream. "Why would you do that?" Dia looked surprised. "You said no." The sprite wailed. Daylily stared. The fairy slowly looked at Dia, then back at the sprite, then back at Dia. "That worked?" Dia shrugged. "It usually does." 5 minutes later, the sprite had explained everything, in great detail, and with many complaints. The ritual itself was surprisingly simple. The corruption had entered through a wound in the Heartwood tree. Dark magic had spread from there. To reverse it, someone connected to nature needed to cleanse the wound and return life energy to the roots. Daylily listened carefully. The sprite continued grumbling. Dia continued holding it. Eventually, the fairy finished preparing. Green light gathered around her hands. The forest grew quiet, expectant, hopeful. Daylily approached the ancient tree, then placed both palms against the wounded bark. The world answered. Emerald light exploded through the clearing. Roots glowed, leaves shimmered, flowers bloomed. The corruption recoiled. Black veins withdrew from the bark like frightened serpents. Dark sap evaporated. The great tree shuddered, not in pain, relief. Throughout the forest, life awakened. Birds began singing. Insects buzzed. Animals emerged cautiously from hiding. Daylily smiled through her tears. The Heartwood tree responded. A massive branch lowered gently, resting against her shoulder. The gesture felt unmistakably affectionate. The fairy laughed softly. "You're welcome." Dia released the sprite, reluctantly. The creature immediately flew backward, far backward, then farther. The sprite pointed accusingly. "I hate you." Dia nodded. Reasonable. Then the sprite vanished into the forest, never looking back. The clearing became peaceful. For a long time, nobody spoke. Daylily remained beside the Heartwood tree, one hand resting against its bark, occasionally nodding, occasionally smiling, sometimes laughing quietly. Dia watched from nearby. After 10 minutes, she frowned. After 20 minutes, she frowned harder. After 30 minutes, she finally spoke. Daylily. The fairy turned. Yes? Are you talking to it? Yes. Dia looked at the tree, then at Daylily, then back at the tree. Can it talk? Not with words. Then how are you talking? Daylily considered. Feelings. Dia's confusion deepened. The fairy smiled. It's hard to explain. I noticed. Eventually, Daylily wrapped both arms around the enormous trunk. The fairy squeezed as hard as she could. The Heartwood tree lowered several branches around her in return. Then the connection ended. The forest settled. The moment passed. Daylily flew back towards Dia, beaming, absolutely beaming. The sort of smile that usually preceded trouble. Dia immediately became suspicious. What? Watch this. Oh no. Daylily landed, took a deep breath, then puffed out her cheeks. Her eyes crossed, her face reddened. The fairy appeared to be attempting battle against her own lungs. Dia watched silently. Nothing happened. Daylily puffed harder, then crack. Bark spread across her skin, not roughly or ugly. Beautiful. Smooth living bark. Tiny vines curled around her arms. Thorns erupted from her shoulders and forearms. Leaves sprouted from her hair. Her emerald wings glowed brighter than ever. Daylily threw both hands into the air. Ta-da! Dia stared. Daylily spun. The bark armor remained. The thorns gleamed. The fairy practically vibrated with excitement. The tree gave me a gift. Dia walked closer. Still staring. Daylily held her arms wide. We're family now. Family? Yes. The tree? Yes. Dia looked at the thorns, then poked one. Immediately regretted it. The thorn punctured her finger. Blood appeared. Dia stared at it, then at Daylily. The fairy looked delighted. See? You stabbed me. It means it's real. You stabbed me. It loves me. Dia held up her bleeding finger. Daylily nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. The barbarian considered arguing, then decided it would accomplish nothing. Okay. Daylily's bark vanished. The thorns withdrew. Her skin returned to normal. The transformation ended. The fairy bounced excitedly. I can become tree-ish now. Tree-ish? Tree-ish. That is a word. It is now. A short while later, they emerged from the magical forest. The road stretched before them once more. The mountains still waited in the distance, and somewhere beyond them, Sindri the White One remained their destination. Daylily floated beside Dia, still excited, still talking, still explaining tree relatives. Dia listened, mostly. Eventually, the fairy finished a particularly enthusiastic explanation. And that's why, technically, I have cousins made entirely of bark. Dia walked for several seconds, then nodded. Good. Daylily smiled. You didn't understand any of that. No. Not even a little? No. The fairy laughed. Dia smirked, and together they continued down the road toward dragons, danger, and whatever ridiculous adventure found them next.